Hi everyone, Raf here with Castle 14 Photography. Today I want to talk about the 7 pitfalls of landscape photography I walked into when I start shooting landscapes and how to avoid them. When I started shooting landscapes, it took me a while to learn the basics. I went out, made the mistakes, came home empty-handed more than I like to admit, spent too much money on gear I didn't need and misused it or broke it. Like any other form of art, photography is a skill you can't learn by reading books or watching YouTube videos. You have to go out, practice and make the mistakes. What I can do for you is give you a head start on the learning curve. Here are the 7 biggest mistakes I used to make. I had an idea of what I wanted to shoot, just jumped in the car and headed out there. Only to finally get there, if I actually got there, at the wrong time of day, at the wrong side of the mountain, at the wrong side of whatever. So I started researching the location a bit before I headed out there. Checked Google Maps, checked Google Street View, checked the weather forecast, checked at what time sunrise or sunset is, checked if the location was shot before and how they shot it, checked where to park the car, what the hike from the car to the location is like. So my first tip today is do some research about your location before you go out. Because actually reaching your location and getting there on time makes shooting it a whole lot easier. Before we start talking about camera gear, there's some other gear you might want to consider. If you want to get to your location before sunrise or stay after sunset, it might be a good idea to take a flashlight. I'll take 2. I have my headlamp for walking and just plain seeing what I'm doing, and I use my torch mainly for light painting. And I have it as a backup for when my headlamp would stop working for some dark reason. Because that never happens. I never forget to charge my batteries. I'll make sure I have my phone and that it's fully charged, because I use it to navigate, I use it to time my long exposures, and in a worst case scenario to call someone to come and find me after I went down and broke my ankle or something. Take something to keep yourself and your camera dry for when it starts raining, you never know. A raincoat will keep you dry, but take something like a large plastic bag to throw over the camera for when it's on its tripod. And of course, water and snacks are a no-brainer. You cannot flex those creative muscles on an empty stomach. At least I can't. Okay, the first thing I want to say about camera gear for landscape photography is to get the idea that expensive gear results in better photos out of your head. You don't need the latest body with the best ISO performance, we'll be shooting at ISO 100. You don't need the fastest lens, we'll be shooting at f8 or f11, f16. So why pay $2,000 for that 2.8 lens if you can get the f4 lens for less than half that money? What you do need is a decent tripod, and that's where it gets tricky. A good tripod is a sturdy one that's neither too light or too heavy. Too light and it will result in blurry photos at the first sign of a gentle breeze. Too heavy and it just plain sucks to carry around. I own a few of the more expensive travel tripods that fold up real nice and small and are easy to carry around, but they're not as sturdy as my cheaper, heavier Studio Manfrotto tripod. With this thing, I still find I get the best results. So if you ask me, invest in the heaviest tripod you're willing to carry. Don't forget your neutral density filters for long exposures and your polarizer filter to get the glare off of water or other shiny things. If you don't have any filters yet, a polarizer filter is definitely worth the investment. Another great investment is the cable release. It enables us to push the shutter without shaking the camera. This is not the infrared remote that comes with Nikon cameras. That is just for pushing the shutter once, not for keeping the shutter open during bulb mode, so no long exposures. There's a lot more detail and dynamic range captured in a RAW file, but you have to post-process your images, so shoot RAW! Make no mistake, the best landscape photography is done when the light is gorgeous, and that's not when the sun is right above us. That's around sunrise or sunset. So yep, that means getting up early and staying out late. And when you arrive at your location, take notice of where that the sun will come up or go down. What is your main subject and how will the light fall on it? I use mainly 2 apps to find out where the sun will be. The first one is the Photographer's Ephemeris, or TPE. It tells you where the sun and the moon will be at your location at a specific time. The other one is Sun Surveyor. It's an augmented reality app that overlays the sun's trajectory over a live image captured by a phone's camera. Pretty neat. Not that accurate though, but good enough to get a general idea. Okay, this is where I have to get a little technical, but it's very easy, so please stay with me. The human eye does not have a problem with seeing details in dark shadows and bright highlights at the same time. The dynamic range of a camera sensor is a lot smaller. If you're shooting a scene with dark shadows and a bright sky, either the sky will be blown out and have no detail, or if you expose for the sky, the shadows will be completely black and have no detail whatsoever. By shooting multiple exposures, we have a sequence of photos that were exposed for the dark shadows, the midtones and the highlights. Later in post we do some exposure blending magic and voila! We have a photo that looks like what we saw with our own eyes. This is something I still tend to forget. When you think you got the shot, don't pack up and leave. Have another good look around. Chance is there's a lot more to shoot than what you saw at first glance. Maybe there's a different or better angle to your subject. Maybe there's a better subject altogether. And when the sun gets down and it's getting dark, whip out that old flashlight and see if you can do some interesting stuff by light painting your subject. Getting to the location and shooting the picture is actually only half the process. Like I said before, we shoot RAW, and a RAW file is the raw data captured by the camera sensor. We have to add contrast and sharpness and color and all that post-processing goodness that makes beautiful landscape photography. I don't get hung up on not altering my photos. I'm not a news photographer. My photos don't have to be true to life. What I strive for is to convey how I felt when I stood there, taking in the view and the beauty of nature. And a lot of that is done in post. That's it for me. I'm all out of pitfalls. I hope you learned something. Go out and do some amazing landscape photography. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and I see you in the next one.